Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Sarah, and I'm here today to share with you a few stories about my adventures and misadventures in re-entering the classroom. In reflecting on these experiences, I found myself thinking, as a former teacher and now as a researcher of teachers. And while I was thinking, I kept asking questions that I don't have answers to yet, and questions that all seem to be leading back to one place: disconnects between the research on teaching and the practice of teaching. So I'm hoping that by sharing these experiences and sharing these questions, I can start a conversation about the ways that we can better minimize the disconnects between research and practice. To begin, some context. Before starting my PhD program, I spent 5 years teaching at a high-needs public high school. During my time here, I jumped through just about every hoop I thought a teacher could jump through. I taught every math subject offered at the high school except for statistics. I taught in an ever-changing schedule. It changed almost by the semester, it seemed. I taught the good kids, I taught the not-so-good kids, and I successfully built and maintained relationships with most of them. So when I was given the opportunity to re-enter the classroom as part of a research project I'm working on with my advisor, I jumped at the chance and I felt up to the challenge. This time, I'd have a lot of advantages that I didn't have before. I'd be able to work with curriculum specialists who are helping us implement this community-based service learning curriculum. They're helping us with the project. And I'd be able to work with my advisor while planning and implementing these lessons. I'd only be working with a small group of students, pulling them out of the class, not the whole class. I'd be seeing them once, maybe every other week for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then I'd be sending them back to their teacher. On top of all of that, I wouldn't have to juggle all of the other things that a typical teacher would have to deal with. This seems like something I should be able to handle with ease, right? I forgot to consider one very important thing. Not only would I be borrowing someone else's class, but I'd be borrowing their class culture as well. Forgetting this one thing impacted all of my experiences with these students, which leads me to my stories, the first of which begins with my first day with the students. Don't worry, I'm not comparing students to monsters. So I got there the first day early. I was glad that I did, because there wasn't enough furniture in the room for the number of students in the group that I was working with. So I took some time, gathered some extra chairs and some extra desks, and made it back to the room just about in time for the students to be delivered. I had the warm-up already written on the board, and I was very proud of myself for remembering a box of pens. Not one of the students brought a pencil with them. And for someone looking for a good research question, there's one. Where do all the pencils go? But anyway, the students got to work, and I started to hang up a poster for the next activity. But it kept falling down. And by the third attempt to hang it, I noticed something was very wrong. Not one of the students was giggling. Guaranteed, if something goes wrong during a lesson, one of the students is going to pick up on it, say something, and giggle. So I took a deep breath, and I turned around. And I noticed that every one of the students was up out of their seats, huddled around a box at the back of the classroom, filled with plastic zombie fingers. "Where did you find those?" I said as I turned around, and I noticed there were blue fingers, there were green fingers, they were being thrown, they were being passed, they were being fit onto fingers. I had no idea where they came from. As I collected the last of them, I realized I was not going to be finishing this lesson. So I did what any experienced teacher would do. I thought about what I could skip, what I could condense, what I needed to hit. I made sure to hit the high notes so that we were ready for the next time, but I didn't finish everything. So when I left the class for the day, I started thinking, what went wrong and what could I do better? One thing that I kept landing on was that I was lacking routines. The other teachers in the building had clearly established routines for pulling students' attention back to them. But I wondered, would I even be able to pull that off? If I tried one of them, would the students listen to me? I kept asking myself questions, and I kept landing on, I lacked power in that classroom, but I hated that word. I kept coming back to it, but I hated it. It wasn't power, and I knew that it wasn't power. But if it wasn't that, what was it that I was really lacking? For those of you who are or have been K-12 teachers, I'd like you to think for a moment. What's the most annoying question you've ever been asked? Is it this one? If it's not, it's probably a close second to what are we supposed to be doing now. So it took until maybe the second or third time that I met with these students for this question to actually come up. And I was glad because I didn't have a plan for it. I didn't have bathroom passes assigned to me. I didn't really know what the procedure was. Was I allowed to be letting them go? What was I supposed to do if they did? So, but this was a weird day. My original thought was that I just wasn't going to let anybody go if they asked. Only 30 to 40 minutes, not a big deal. But this was a 2-hour delay. The school was also following a schedule that wasn't their normal 2-hour delay schedule. I wasn't sure if the students had just come from lunch or had their normal breaks. So I decided to let the student go. Within minutes, 4 or 5 more hands popped up. Can I go to the bathroom? So I made split-second decisions because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to let all of these students just on a revolving door go in and out of the classroom. I made these decisions about who to trust and who not to trust. And in that moment, I changed the way that some of the students were interacting with me for that lesson and all the rest to follow. I thought about why. It's because in those split seconds, I made very clear statements to those students about who I trusted and who I did not, and I didn't really know them at all. When thinking about that, I realized it wasn't power that I was lacking. It was relationships. So what? Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I forgot the importance of relationships, even though my experiences as a teacher told me how important they were. I forgot about it because the restrictions of the research context that I was in, just like restrictions of the teaching context, kept me from spending the time that I really needed to spend to develop the relationships that I should have with those students. Relationships that would have given power to any routine that I tried and given weight to any of my expectations for the students. But I kept thinking, am I thinking too much like a teacher right now? Because I haven't really said much about the research, and I'm sure that you've noticed that. But then I kept asking questions. Is that really a bad thing? So I guess my big question for you all today is how can we include, explore, address, consider, think about the importance of relationships in the various avenues of research that we pursue as they relate to education? Thank you.